Long before anyone could drive to a store and buy a jug of chemical weed killer, families still had to deal with weeds taking over their gardens. And they figured out how to do it without poisoning the same soil their vegetables depended on. One of the simplest methods they used is still sitting in your kitchen right now, and it costs you absolutely nothing beyond what you are already boiling for dinner. Plain boiling water. Before you dismiss this as too simple to actually work, let's talk about why it does, because understanding the mechanism is what separates a real technique from a myth that happens to sound plausible. Weeds, like every other plant, are made of living cells held together by cell walls and filled with water. When you pour boiling water directly onto a weed, the extreme heat causes those cells to rupture almost instantly, essentially cooking the plant tissue on contact. The leaves and stem you can see above ground will visibly wilt and blacken within hours, sometimes within minutes for smaller, more tender weeds. This is not a slow poisoning process. It is immediate physical destruction of the plant structure, the same way boiling water would damage any living tissue it touched. Here is the detail that makes this trick genuinely different from chemical herbicides, and it is the entire reason the title of this video promises your soil stays healthy. Heat dissipates. Once that boiling water hits the soil and the surrounding air, it cools within minutes and leaves behind nothing but water, the exact same water your plants would have received from rain or a garden hose anyway. There is no residual chemical sitting in the soil, no synthetic compound working its way into groundwater, and nothing accumulating over repeated uses the way chemical herbicides can build up over a growing season. This is exactly why generations of families used this method around vegetable beds specifically, areas where they could not afford to have anything toxic lingering in the ground their food was growing in. Now let's get into exactly how to use it correctly, because like every trick on this channel, the method matters as much as the ingredient. Bring a pot of water to a full rolling boil, then carry it directly to the weed you want to eliminate. Pour it slowly and deliberately right onto the crown of the plant, the point where the stem meets the soil, since this is the most vulnerable part of the weed and where the heat will do the most damage to its ability to recover. For weeds growing in cracks in a driveway, along a walkway, or in gravel areas where you have zero desire for anything to grow at all, you can be generous with how much water you use and how widely you pour it. For weeds growing near or inside an actual garden bed, precision matters far more. Pour carefully and directly onto the target weed only, avoiding the base of any vegetables or desired plants nearby, since boiling water will damage the roots of anything it touches with equal efficiency, weed or not. This method works best on young, tender weeds and on annual weeds with shallow root systems. For those, a single application is often enough to kill the plant completely, since it has no deep, established root reserve to regrow from. Perennial weeds with deep, extensive root systems, the kind that spread underground and can regenerate from a single surviving root fragment, are a tougher fight. Boiling water will kill the visible top growth every time, but you may need to repeat the treatment every time new growth appears, gradually exhausting the root's stored energy over several applications, rather than expecting one pour to end the problem permanently. There is a second old-fashioned method worth mentioning, one that pairs well with boiling water for tougher spots, though I want to be careful about exactly how I describe this one, because it is where a lot of people online get the details wrong in a way that can genuinely hurt your garden. A simple mixture of white vinegar and a small amount of dish soap, the soap acting purely as a surfactant to help the vinegar stick to the leaf surface instead of rolling off, can work as a contact weed killer on driveways, gravel paths, patios, and other non-planting surfaces. The acetic acid in vinegar damages the waxy outer layer of a plant's leaves, drying it out from contact exposure. Here is the part I need to be honest about, because half of this trick, without the warning, is actively bad advice. Do not add table salt to this mixture, despite what a lot of older recipes online suggest, and avoid using vinegar sprays repeatedly in the same garden bed soil you intend to plant vegetables in again. Salt does not break down or dissipate the way heat does. It accumulates in the soil, and enough of it will genuinely damage soil structure and make it difficult for future plants to take up water properly, working directly against everything this channel stands for when it comes to building healthy, reusable soil. Vinegar itself breaks down more readily than salt. but frequent, heavy use in the same planting bed can still gradually affect soil pH over time. This is why boiling water remains the safer default for anything near your actual vegetable garden, while the vinegar and soap mixture is best reserved for surfaces where nothing is ever meant to grow again, like the cracks in a driveway or a gravel path. I want to be just as honest about the limitations of boiling water itself, the same way we have approached every trick on this channel. This method does not discriminate between plants. It will kill whatever it touches with the same efficiency, so precision and a steady hand matter every single time you use it near desired plants. It also will not prevent new weed seeds from blowing in or sprouting later in the season, since it only affects the plant present at the moment you pour it, not the seed bank sitting dormant in the surrounding soil. And for genuinely established, deep-rooted perennial weeds, patience and repetition matter more than a single dramatic application. For most families dealing with weeds creeping into pathways, along fence lines, or popping up in gravel areas around the garden, a kettle of boiling water carried out during your normal routine, maybe right after you finish making tea or pasta, is one of the simplest zero-cost habits you can build. It costs nothing beyond the water and the few extra minutes you were already spending heating it for something else. And unlike a jug of chemical weed killer sitting under your sink, there is no safety concern if children or pets wander through the same area an hour later. Combine this with the eggshell, cinnamon, coffee ground, and wood ash tricks we have covered on this channel, and you now have a genuinely complete $0 system for managing your garden's soil health and its weeds, using nothing but what your kitchen already produces every single day. Start this week by putting your next pot of boiling water to use before it goes down the drain. Walk it out to whatever stubborn weed has been bothering you in the driveway or along your garden path, and watch how quickly something this simple actually works. If this is the first time you have thought about your kettle as a gardening tool, you are exactly the kind of person this channel is for. Until next time, stay ready, stay growing, and keep your family fed.